Hi, y'all. I'm Allison. It's been a while since I've done any reviews, and this is the perfect time to implement a change. What I'm going to do is, instead of leaving my list of books to review up to my games each month, which is what I've done in the past, I'm instead going to find a common thread between them and start grouping them and putting up reviews that way. So hopefully, what we'll end up with is a little library over in the playlist. So if y'all are looking for something new to read, or if you've been curious about a book, you should be able to find it and get any information that you're looking for on it. So I'm hoping that'll be more beneficial to y'all in the future and make much more sense than the random list that my TBR games come up with, because you could end up with a classic, historical fiction, a sci-fi or horror, and a middle grade all in one list, which is fun to read that way, but it doesn't really make for a cohesive video when you're discussing books. Before I get into the actual book discussion, though, I just want to let y'all know this will be completely spoiler free. If by some chance I do need to give away some details of a book to clear up a point I'm making or something along that lines, then I would clearly put a big old spoiler tag on the screen for you, and also mark it down in the chapter so you can easily skip it and not ruin your reading experience, because I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to ruin it. The other important thing might be, primarily what I'm looking for in books is whether I would want to revisit them and go back and reread them, or if it's something that kind of sticks with me. So that's how my reviews basically go. It's how much did I enjoy it? I look at characters, if I love them, love to hate them. The world building, if it's immersive. The writing style, of course, and that kind of stuff. I'm not really going for a literary critique so much as just, was this book worth the time to read? So all of that being said, let's just get right into it and let's talk middle grade. I've got 5 books for y'all, and these were all actually chosen by my 2 TBR games for March. Tunnel of Bones by Victoria Schwab. This is part 2 in the Cassidy Blake series, with the first book being City of Ghosts. I am so enjoying this series. I hope it continues on. I have a sinking suspicion it's going to end with book 3, which is waiting on the shelf behind me. These are just really atmospheric, fun, creepy, informative books. I'm really surprised. I love the characters. Cassidy Blake is traveling for the summer with her parents. Her mom is a author and an illustrator, an artist, and her father is a history teacher. And they've written books in the past, and now they are filming a documentary series on haunted places throughout the world, and they are going on site to film their TV show, and Cassidy is going along for the ride. Unbeknownst to her parents, though, she actually is able to step into the in-between, and she can communicate with ghosts. So the experience is a lot more educational for her than her parents ever thought it would be. And these books, I fly through them. They are short, and you would be amazed at how much is packed into these few pages. The first one, we went to Edinburgh, Scotland, and the second one, we are in Paris. You get a lot of the history of both cities with their old folklore and their ghost stories and hauntings that have been, the stories that have been passed down, their urban legends, if you will. This one, we obviously are going to go to the catacombs, but there's also, I believe it was the Louvre and some gardens. There was like 5 different places in Paris. So we do have some great side characters in both of them. Grim the cat, he is in both. But one of the side characters from Scotland still stays in communication with Cassidy and kind of helps along in her adventures in Paris. And we meet some new characters. There's the film crew, and the characters are all fleshed out really good. You get a feel for them, and I cannot recommend these enough. If you haven't picked up the Cassidy Blake series, definitely add it to your list because you will enjoy it, especially if you like history. So anyway, I gave both of these 5 stars, and I'm anxiously waiting to read book 3. So let's move on to the next one. Comb of Wishes by Lisa Stringfellow. She is a debut author, and this was the February 2022 Owl Crate Junior selection. We have Kella, and we are on a Caribbean island, so you get a lot of the island life and the local folklore, and we have a mermaid. Kella, I believe she's about 12 years old. Her mother has passed recently, and she discovers a comb for your hair in a coral cave that belongs to Ophidia. And Kella takes this comb home, and it sets up the whole story because now she makes a deal with Ophidia. She gets a wish, but she has things she has to uphold on her side of the bargain as well. And she has troubles meeting those terms. This is told in 2 POVs. We have Kella's side of the story, and we have the mermaid Ophidia. Difference between the 2 POVs is beautifully done. Ophidia's portion, they're very short. It's like maybe a couple of pages, her point of view, and it's so sinister and so eerie. I was completely floored by that. There was one scene, I read it aloud to my daughter, and she's like, whoa. I was like, I know, right? So, completely different take on a mermaid trope if you're looking for something new, and you get this small island life. Fell in love with Kella and her family and her friends. So this is another one I highly recommend. Very atmospheric. Again, they packed a lot in a short book, and I am really looking forward to hearing more from this author. So I will be keeping an eye out for her. I think I gave this one 4. And I don't know why, unless I was just like, well, I can't give everybody 5, which isn't fair. Actually, I didn't write down anything on why I only ranked this as a 4 instead of 5. Looking back, I probably should have ranked it higher. It has stuck with me. It's quite unique, and I don't know. So we'll call it between 4 and 5. The Tapestry series by Henry H. Neff, and this is Hound of Ronan is part 1. Max McDaniel lives in Chicago with his father. Max sees a Celtic tapestry come to life right before his very eyes, and of course, no one else sees this phenomenon happening. But this act alerts this elite boarding school out in New England that is actually a magical school, and Max is invited to attend, which turns out good for him because some dark forces are also have been alerted to his abilities, and they are out after him. I like this one, but at the same time, there was a little lacking in it. And I think part of what hurts it is the little blurbs in the very front. And they're comparing the school to Hogwarts, and they're comparing the book to Harry Potter in 2007, back when the Harry Potter hype was really big. And I think that does this book a disservice because the dorms, while cool, and the school, while cool, doesn't have that Hogwarts. It doesn't reach that level, which, it's a hard level to reach. while it does have some really cool parts, like the dorm rooms, those were awesome. But that was pretty much the only magical thing about the school itself. But there is a lot of high tech going on there. And there is magical training and magical elements. But it's not the focus. Two of my favorite characters are Mum, a retired hag, and Bob, who is a 10-foot giant who works in the kitchens. And those two characters are gold. Every time they made an appearance, I was just cracking up. There's quite a bit of humor in here. There's good friendships. You've got the typical bully that starts picking on Max from day one. So there's that rivalry going. Another thing I did find jarring about the book, though, was while they would go like to their first class, say for survival training or whatnot, and they describe the environment that they're taking this class in and what the class is going to be like. And then the students would go through like their first lesson, and then you'd have a jump to like a couple months later to something completely unrelated. So that kind of, those time jumps for me kind of hurt the progression of the narrative, kind of took me out of it a little bit. It wasn't as seamless as it could have been. This is a fairly good sized book, and this is the entire school year. Oh, one other thing I did want to point out, and that's that the book is illustrated. And the really cool thing is it is illustrated by the author himself. He is an artist. So the artwork, of course, depicts exactly what he had in mind when he was writing these scenes. And it really does add to it. It brings it to life. There's a lot of Irish mythology in this. There are magical creatures, and there's a little bit of a mystery going on, which again was compelling as well. So it may sound like I wasn't too excited about this book, but it was quite enjoyable. I do recommend it though, and I am intrigued to keep continuing on. I already have book 2, so I will be reading that at some point. So it definitely has potential. It's just not, compared to the other books that I read in March, this one kind of felt a little lacking. But it's not to say it's a bad book. So yeah, I gave this one 3 3/4 stars, which means I definitely rated this one too low. I'm gonna change this one. This one's gonna get a 4.5. I'm gonna go back on Storygraph and change that. This was 3 3/4. Anyway, that was book 1 of the Tapestry series. Next up, The Winterhouse Mysteries. This is by Ben Guterson, and it is book 3 in a trilogy. It's the final one. So yay for finishing a series. Always awesome. Here is book 2, which is Winterhouse, and it was followed up with The Secrets of Winterhouse. I loved the first book. I found it charming, engaging, and intriguing. I really enjoyed this one. We've got Elizabeth Summers, who again is about 12 years old. She gets sent to the Winterhouse Hotel, which is a little sinister. There's something going on with the family there, and she's not quite sure. Things aren't right. But she makes a best friend, Freddie, and the two love solving word puzzles and anagrams and things like that. And between the two of them, they're trying to figure out what exactly is going on at Winterhouse, because Elizabeth is tied to this hotel, but she doesn't know how. And then we move on to The Secrets of Winterhouse. By now, Elizabeth knows her connection with the hotel. And I felt that this one pretty much followed the exact same outline as the original, as the first book. So I didn't quite enjoy it as much. It seemed like there was a formula they were following. They just changed a couple of details, changed the names of the bad guys. Rinse, repeat, did it again. So this one, I believe I gave a 5, and this one I gave like 3.5. So I went into the third one not quite as excited as I had been for the second book. So this one does deviate from like the two similar plot lines of the first two books. We have something different going on. The first two were set like in Christmas break. This one's in Easter break. And now Elizabeth is kind of wrestling with what's expected of her in the future. She's only like 12, 13 years old, and she's already wrestling with what she's going to do with her life and everything. And I felt like a lot of the conflict as far as Elizabeth with herself was kind of forced. And it was just trying to create extra drama and extra tension that was, I don't know if it was unnecessary or if it just didn't hit the mark with me. It felt like it took a really long time to actually get to the mystery part of the story, which, you know, these are supposed to be fantasy, so that would be okay. Except when you have mystery in the title, I expect it to be the main focus of the book. So I think the intended audience would really enjoy these, middle graders. So I'm obviously much older than that, but so I didn't engage with it quite as fully as, you know, the intended audience probably would. It just didn't capture my imagination as much as the first one did. The first one maybe, it's like, I want to go stay at this hotel. And by now, I guess the newness has worn off, and it just, yeah, wasn't quite as magical. So, and I'm not by any means saying that this was a bad book or a waste of time or anything like that. I just don't think that I would be compelled to reread them. And that is my main factor, whether I would want to reread this book, because my plan is eventually to only have the books on the shelves that I love and would reread. So while I can see myself picking up the first book again during the Christmas season, I don't know that I would bother to go through books 2 and 3 as well. So anyway, that was my opinion. I know this is quite a popular series on YouTube. So if y'all have read these and didn't find that repetition that I did, or didn't see the inner struggles as a deterrence from the book, then definitely let me know down in the comments if you think I was way off base. I'd love to hear differing opinions. That's what it's all about, right? So we've got one last book. Another home run, and that is The Unforgettable Logan Foster by Shawn Peters. This was the January 2022 Owl Crate Junior box. I am really enjoying my Owl Crate Juniors. If it wasn't for that box, I would have never have found these books, and I'm so glad I read them. Again, another little bitty one, but it packs so much in there. And this one is going to be the start of a series, and I cannot wait to get my hands on book 2. So we've got Logan Foster, and if there's ever a character I wanted to put in my pocket and keep with me, it is him, because he is the most precious, charming, hilarious, precocious little kid I think I've read in a long time. He is neurodivergent. I believe he probably has autism tendencies. He has an eidetic, I'll put it on the screen, memory, so he can recall everything he's seen. And he also has the need to overshare the information that he has, so he can come across as a little bit of a know-it-all. And while he does experience emotions, at the time he's not able to identify what he's feeling, and he can't quite process it. So his reactions may not be what people would expect, and he is just gold. The way he handles, there's a group of bullies, and he puts those bullies in their place so perfectly. I was cracking up, and yeah, you just kind of cheer for him. So Logan has grown up in the foster care system, and they've got The kids call them PPs, which are prospective parents. And the little acronym is not accidental. They get a kick out of it. So, but it's not full of bathroom humor. That's the only. And Gil and Margie come to the adoption or the orphanage, and they are interested in adopting Logan. So he goes home with them, and they're getting to know each other, and some weird things start happening around town, and before he knows it, he's suspecting that there is something going on with his adoptive parents, or hopefully adoptive parents. And it turns out they are superheroes. So he gets caught up in this whole superhero world with the villains and everything. He makes friends with a girl next door who is a couple years older than him. As with his memory and everything, he is bumped up in grades, so he's very small for his age, but he's also in high school to top it off. So, like I said, there's a little bit of the bullying aspects, but they handle it really well, and it's not a main focus of the book. But out of this whole list, I would say get Logan Foster first. And while you're there, grab the Cassidy Blake series. And then the Come of Wishes. It's really hard to do that, but because those three are really good. But yes, I will definitely be revisiting this book, especially if you're needing a boost. If you want a fun, just quick read and to close the book and just get that little warm fuzzy glow, then yeah, Logan Foster is it. It does cover foster care. The book is written from his point of view. He's writing a letter he's writing it to his unknown younger sibling, and that's from page 1 on, and it's just charming. It's adorable. I could gush about this book forever, or not forever, but I could gush for a very, very long time. And I'm a talker, so believe me, I can keep going and going and going. But we're not going to. So we're going to close it here. Those were the 5 middle grade books that I read in March. And if y'all are interested in any of these, let me know if I've piqued your interest, or if you have any questions about them, or if you had a completely different take on the book. If you've read them and thought I was completely off my rocker, get it, I'm in a rocker, then let me know. But, and keep an eye out, because like I said, I'm going to start doing my reviews this way. They'll be grouped by age, genre, maybe a common trope, time frame, something like that. So hopefully y'all will be able to go fishing in my little playlist and find something that will spark your interest and make you want to grab that next book. Once you hit that thumbs up, tell YouTube I might be onto something here, and hit that subscribe button if you would like to see more. Until then, I'll see y'all next time. Bye now.